So, at a time when our phones are constantly tracked by big tech, the Minnesota Supreme Court is setting some ground rules around how much they share with Big Brother. In a ruling today, the court said the state constitution ensures a reasonable amount of privacy around yours and my location data. And this one is leaving at least one murder conviction in limbo. Here's Kent.
After the body of a man was discovered in rural Dakota County 5 years ago, investigators obtained a geofence warrant for cell phones that passed through this remote area. But the Minnesota Supreme Court now says investigators took that warrant a step too far.
The court recognized that we are entitled to privacy in our location information, even if we share our location information with a provider like Google.
Jennifer Lynch is general counsel for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which appealed the second-degree murder conviction of Ivan Contreras Sanchez, arguing that investigators violated his right to privacy when they tracked his location data beyond that original scene.
It was incredibly important that the court in this case recognized that access to that information requires a warrant.
There's so much new technology that can be used to track our citizens, and so we need to put some guardrails on that. And I see the court doing that under the Minnesota Constitution, which is great.
St. Thomas law professor Julie Jonas says she's surprised by the timing of the decision, considering the United States Supreme Court is set to hear a similar case later this month.
The court could go another way at the federal level and say, because you voluntarily give this information over to Google, you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy, and cut it off right there.
By electing not to wait, the Minnesota Supreme Court now sends this case back to the appeals court.
He could get a new trial.
So the question then is, could old cases resurface?
I don't see this decision as being retroactive, so I don't think it's going to open up a whole lot of cases on this issue.
In regards to future cases, she points to the ruling where the court made a point to say geofence warrants are a useful tool for law enforcement, adding, had there been judicial review of the reasonableness of that expanded search, the result here may have been different.
In a way, does this ruling give law enforcement more of a rule book for how to go about this?
I think it does. It says you can do this, but you need to have everything very carefully tailored as you go forward.
Now back to the case at hand here. Ivan Contreras Sanchez is currently serving a 40-year sentence for second-degree murder and initially confessed to taking part in the murder during questioning with police. But he later challenged the way he was even identified as a suspect using that cell phone data. Now the Court of Appeals will have to decide if that mistake by law enforcement qualifies as a good faith exception or if he will receive a new trial without that key piece of evidence central to the case. Jana.
Okay, so when that appeals court makes that decision, it does so as a body, not with a jury. It's not a trial yet. They have to decide that part of if.
Right. Essentially, do you get a new trial or do you not? And the conviction holds.
And in this case, it sounds like if they would have just gotten that second warrant to say we need to extend our location search of this individual further, this would have been a moot point.
Right. And here they actually did apply for a second warrant, but they kind of jumped the gun, according to the court, in expanding it. They should have done it sooner. And if that was the case, they said, again, this might have been completely different.
All right. Thanks so much, Kent. Interesting.